This is Mike Brennan.
And it's Matt Roush.
And we're on our third segment. We have calling in all the way from Ann Arbor, where I am, is Drew Bennett, who Drew is he's a software licensing director for the U of M, works in the engineering department. And one of the things that caught my eye a week or so ago, and we were going to try to get him on the show, was the U of M is working with some makers right now to develop 3D, it's face shields, right, Drew?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Why don't we talk a little bit about that?
So I think, as most people are aware, there's kind of been a difficulty through the entire pandemic and COVID-19 life cycle, if you will, that we've definitely had a difficulty getting a hold of personal protective equipment, and people in the health system generally are using a couple of things on a high need basis, and one of those is a face shield. So it's essentially a plexiglass screen, if you will, clear plexiglass screen, and then it's got a bit of I'll call it a halo or a headband on it, and they use this basically to try and deflect droplets or anything that's liquid that might be coming towards the health practitioner. And then the other thing is obviously a traditional face mask. So a surgical mask, a lot of people have become familiar with language like the N95 mask type of thing. But the thing that we have been working with the local maker community with is printing the 3D halo aspect of it. So the part that really kind of goes around your head like a headband, and then snapping that together with a plexiglass shield, and producing those for not only U of M's health system, but the maker community in Ann Arbor's been doing that for all the other local health systems. So St. Joe, the VA, Michigan, obviously, and kind of got a lot of people rallied around a common approach and design over a period of weeks, and really produced a really significant amount of stuff. So for a lot of people who wanted to say, hey, how can I help? It's been a really interesting project to see come together.
Matt?
So what's happening with this? Are you like coordinating a small army of 3D printers operating to produce these things, or what's the U of M's role in this?
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. I would tell you that a lot of people, we won't claim credit for the idea at all. So a lot of people across the country really immediately, if Yankee ingenuity counts for anything anymore, people kind of said, we have this resource, what can we do? And a number of different designs were kind of established for this headband aspect of it. So there have been designs from any variety of different corners. We picked up a design that we had used successfully and made some modifications essentially to try and simplify it. And very early on, Michigan kind of established what we call a PPE donation center. So we were willing to accept donations from the community because people were asking us, I have a box of masks, I have, a bunch of Clorox wipes, that type of stuff. What can I do? And then we had the maker community come out and say, hey, we can make these for you. And what we've subsequently done is essentially over time, in coordination with people like MakerWorks in Ann Arbor and a subsequent group of people called Operation Face Shield, work together with those folks to kind of settle on a common design that U of M wanted to use to simplify the production and coordinate some help from a variety of different people. We got some help actually from BASF down in Wyandotte, which was really nice. They produced a lot of face shield material for us and really tried to kind of get everybody rallying around a similar approach. So to answer your question, Matt, exactly correct. We've been trying to coordinate some of the effort with the 3D Army.
Okay.
So your design actually came from the Czech Republic though, right?
It was originally from a thing called Prusa, and I would tell you honestly, Mike, I'm not even sure I could tell you the lineage. It's probably an interesting family tree if you look at it, where the thing has slowly been tweaked. The original design had 4 posts, if you will, to snap on the plastic face shield. Well, some smart people looked at that and said, that's interesting. What if we got it so that you could literally use the 3-hole punch from a paper punch? And get it down to
That's what I
3
think.
pegs. So we made that modification. And then just stuff that's just smart people thinking about how to make this thing better over time. So yeah, I think some of the lineage did come out of the Czech Republic. There were some other things that came out of different places. University of Wisconsin had done some things. So it's a really nice kind of amalgamation of a lot of different thinking. And then people saying, hey, if I put it together in this configuration, I can print 6 of them at the same time. Or if I put it in this way, I can print 2 of them at the same time. Or if I set up the file this way, there's all kinds of laser cutting capacity of just typical plastic. So a lot of different things came into it.
And then who are the recipients of these? Are these going to U of M Hospital, St. Joe Veterans Center, or are they going beyond Ann Arbor?
They're going well beyond Ann Arbor. The group in Ann Arbor that's we've worked closely with are really 2 groups, a group out of MakerWorks, which is a maker space in Ann Arbor. And then there's another group of folks that kind of coalesced from a variety of different maker spaces, whether it were high schools that had these 3D printers or like robotics clubs that had them. It kind of reminds me of my day and age. People used to build these Heathkit electronics things, and you'd have stuff left over and people doing stuff, but you definitely had different people. And the short answer to your question, Mike, is that stuff's been distributed across the country. It's actually gone all over the place. So they've filled stuff, literally mailed stuff to people. I would say, you just imagine where they have a listing on the site. I haven't looked at it in a while, but it's gone all over the place where people have asked for this stuff, but definitely a lot in the local hospitals. So all the way into Detroit as well. So a number of different places have gotten it.
Matt?
Yeah, that's what I've heard of a lot of sort of creative repurposing of materials here, like the plastic face shields have been made out of the plastic pages of a presentation or a booklet or something like that, and that's where the idea for the 3-hole punch came from. And it's like, hey, we got 1,000 of these things sitting in a file cabinet, and it's going to take us 3 years to use them all. Meanwhile, you got people who really need it in first responder situations. So tell me a little bit about the Rapid Reaction Steering Committee. Who's on that? How was that formed?
Yeah, so early on, there was kind of a coordination between the medical center, so the Michigan Medicine, and the College of Engineering to say, hey, we're probably going to have some very specific needs that we want to address. And there's a command group inside of Michigan Medicine that really is trying to oversee the entire activity of the health system. But the engineering group in particular, through Dean Gallimore and Steve Sessio, kind of merged up with that group to try and focus the energy of the School of Engineering to address specific problems. So that's how that formed up. Really was kind of the primary leadership out of the health system and the primary leadership out of the School of Engineering, with a dialogue going on a fairly continuous basis about specific needs. There's been a number of other projects that kind of have been developed both within Michigan Medicine, jointly with the health system, everything from sanitization of masks, which people have also heard about this a lot, I'm sure, different methods, a lot of testing that's gone on to make sure the filtration capability of those masks is what we would anticipate after going through whatever that cleaning process is. Vent splitters, Michigan has developed a pretty specific vent splitter and some negative pressure helmets, and a lot of stuff has come out of that. So probably really 4 or 5 really big projects through that collaboration, and people trying to share their obvious expertise in the different areas.
So how difficult was it getting all this cobbled together, or was a lot of people raising their hands wanting to get involved?
Yeah, I always, it's interesting. I worked with a group of people inside of the School of Engineering and the Operation Face Shield group and the MakerWorks group. And, it's, if you ever question whether the notion of the fog of war exists or not, don't question that anymore, because it certainly, it took a while to get everybody coordinated. But the good thing is, I think everybody was even in the cases where you had some, I'll call it communication challenges, for lack of a better way of characterizing it, it was all for the right effort. But, definitely once we kind of got a little feedback from both the user community, because honestly, somebody's wearing this thing all day long. You really want to hear from them. Is it uncomfortable? What types of things could change? And then you're talking to people who say exactly your point. I've got, 6 cases of overhead slides that I used back in the day when we had overhead projectors. So it'd be great if I could use these, but that type of stuff, I would tell you easily within 7 to 10 days, most of the big kinks were ironed out, and people have really done a lot of amazing work. It's always interesting to me when you give good guidance. The ingenuity and capacity and generosity of people is pretty much unbounded.
Okay, and so is this part of the tech transfer office, or is this independent of that and just part of engineering?
It's kind of independent of that. I have a small secret I can tell you. I was a respiratory therapist for 6 years at the beginning of my career, and that's how I paid my way through my undergrad degree. So very early on, I asked if there was stuff that I could do, because I had a pretty clear understanding of what I think some of my former colleagues, both therapists, doctors, and nurses, would be facing. So
traditional 4-year students love Lawrence Technological University's thriving campus life, but LTU has always met non-traditional students' needs too. Lawrence Tech offers over 100 degree and certificate programs that can get adult students started or back on track. And most of our classes are conveniently offered evenings at our beautiful Southfield campus or online, so you can balance your social, family, and work life even while you power up your career. Lawrence Tech, where Blue Devils dare.